Right. Nice. Come on, come on. Nice. Come on. Catch it. Yeah, like this.
That's the shark.
You've seen a shark?
I think so, yeah.
No, you haven't.
Road trip in the US has been by far one of the most exciting things I have done in my life. It took my girlfriend and I a year and a half to plan this trip, so when our flight landed in LA, neither of us could quite believe what we were actually doing. After spending a couple of nights in LA, we hit the road and drove through the West Coast heading to San Francisco, where we had the chance to see some very dramatic landscapes and wildlife. And San Francisco was definitely a city both my girlfriend and I just fell in love with. After spending a couple of weeks by the sea, we headed off to Yosemite.
Whoa! Oh my god.
I cannot quite describe the excitement we both experienced when we drove through the valley floor for the first time. Seeing El Cap, the waterfalls and Half Dome with our own eyes was a next level experience for both of us. We were not going to spend a lot of time in Yosemite, so the next morning we headed off to the boulder fields. After doing some mileage and warming up on easy climbs, we headed off to one of the most sought after climbs in the valley, and arguably the most famous boulder problem in the world, Midnight Lightning. Midnight Lightning gained its fame in the late 70s, as it meant a breakthrough in climbing difficulty at the time. At first they thought there was as much chance of someone doing it as there was a lightning bolt striking at midnight. Its first ascent was made by Ron Kauk in 1978. It's a high-wall boulder problem with a mix of technical and burly moves. It's been given V8 or Font 7B+. My first reaction when standing in front of it was feeling respect. Not only because of the vision, but also because of the little means they had at the time. Trying this boulder problem ground up with questionable climbing shoes and no crash pads at all, not knowing what the holes feel or are like past the lip, adds a whole dimension of complexity. So I stood there for a while reflecting on this. The first impressions I got when trying it were not too bad, although I couldn't help but realize how extremely polished the first holes were. I guess that obviously comes as a result of being one of the most famous boulder problems in the world. I soon realized that my pad situation wasn't ideal. Although I had 3 pads with me for this trip, I was going to need at least 4 or 5 more to try this problem safely. On the first day on it, I managed to try the moves, as there were over 10 pads in total. However, most of them belonged to a fellow climber I met there. He owned so many pads. I managed to have a few attempts on it before he had to leave, which gave me an idea of where the problem stood in terms of difficulty. I left shortly after with a bit of a bittersweet feeling, as now I knew that I would have to rely on using other people's pads to be able to climb. However, I got lucky on the second day and there was a crowd trying it when I arrived. On this day, I managed to dial the moves at the beginning and tried out the moves further up. I would say that the problem has 2 cruxes. First one is the jump and catch with the right hand to a small edge before the top out moves. It's a committing blind move, low percentage, and you have to crank up a ton of finger strength. I would probably call this a single V6 move. Once you do this, you have a few easier moves that lead up to the famous palm down freak mantle move. A guy I had the chance to chat with who had done the problem himself described it as a techie V4 problem on its own. Not extremely hard, but highly technical and committing. I didn't get the chance to try this myself on this day, as I was struggling a lot with the previous crux, even just committing to go for it. I did manage to latch the crimp and hold it once on this day, which meant a new high point on the climb and a breakthrough, as I knew that once I was able to do that, I could potentially be able to do the rest of it. I decided to call it shortly after, as I had had a fair amount of tries already and I wanted to preserve skin and energy. The possibility of not being able to climb this problem was present in my head more than I would have liked to admit at the time. I had just one more day on it, and knowing that I would maybe not get the chance to try it ever again after it, only added more pressure. When we turned up on the next evening, there was no one there. Oh man, I was so upset. I couldn't believe no one was trying it. I was not going to leave then, so I started warming up anyway in the hope that people would turn up. And that was the case after half an hour. A few people showed up and we teamed up to have a session. I was mega psyched. I managed to stick the crimp move on my first attempt, which gave me a confident boost, and I managed to repeat this a couple more times shortly after. And on the fourth attempt, this happened.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
I couldn't quite believe I got to the mantle that early on in the session. Everything felt solid. I felt like I could have climbed the block then. However, I didn't. I certainly felt out of my depth, not being able to pull it out of the bag when I needed to. I was simply terrified to commit to the mantle. I did try the problem a few more times, but I didn't manage to get that far again. As much as I would have loved to climb this block, I wasn't able to. It did break my heart a bit knowing that I will probably not get the chance to try it again, as there are way too many boulders in the world to justify coming back just for this one. It felt like it could have gone either way, as I wasn't miles away from doing the moves. However, when I got to the mantle, I just didn't have it in me. We had to leave Yosemite the next morning, so I was quite sad, but in hindsight, I managed to enjoy the process and I'm at peace with it now. I was so fortunate to even have a go on it in the first place and to try many other amazing boulders in Yosemite. I will always look back at it as a highly positive experience. I will be publishing more videos in the coming weeks about Bishop, Red Rock and Joshua Tree, which are some of the places we visited during our trip, so stay tuned. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. It really helps a lot. See you guys soon.